Hello and welcome to Recovery Arkansas and Beyond with your host, Jake Cupid with The Other Side Ministries and Dana Davin Ward with Harbor Home in Conway, Arkansas. This week's guest is Crystal Holland with Arkansas Peer Recovery in Lonoke County, Arkansas.
Hi, and welcome to another exciting episode of Recovery Arkansas and Beyond. I'm your host, Jay Cupid, along with my co-host, Dana Davin Ward, the lovely Dana Davin Ward.
Well, thank you, Jay.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Good morning. So who have we got with us today, Dana?
Well, we have Crystal Holland, and we are so excited that you're with us, Crystal.
Yes, we are.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you, guys.
You bet. Hey, let's kind of start out. I like to start out with kind of where you grew up and you know, where did you grow up, and tell us a little bit about that.
Small town of Cabot, Arkansas. Born and raised in that area. That's where my whole family's from.
Cabot's not such a small town anymore.
Not anymore, no.
Yeah, it used to be. I used to consider it to be about the size of Heber Springs, but it's really grown.
Yeah, it was nice when I was little, but now it's a little congested.
Traffic jams.
All the time.
Who would have thought it?
Yeah, no kidding. So tell us a little bit about what you do.
So I am a peer recovery specialist. Specifically, I'm a peer recovery supervisor in training with the Arkansas Peer Recovery Program through the Department of Human Services Recovery Unit. And basically, you know, it's a 3-tier system. So you start out as a core, you can go into advanced, and then supervisor. So it's almost like your associates, bachelors, and masters in peer support. But it's a pretty awesome program. It gives people who have a history of substance use disorder, addiction, a way to use their lived experience to help others and bring them out of that darkness.
And that is so important, too. And it gives purpose
Absolutely.
to your life, because I think you've got a similar background. And tell us how you got into this.
Ooh. Specifically how I got into it, because I went through a faith-based recovery program after 22 years of addiction myself. And I was actually working at Chrissy's House of Recovery. I was volunteering there a lot with
That's
David
in BB?
Britt. Yes.
Yeah, we know David.
Great program. And we were getting a lot of people in that maybe didn't qualify for faith-based recovery at the time. You know, either they were on the parole and their parole officer wouldn't allow them to go, or they just were mad at God for whatever reason at that time, but they still needed help. And so I'd heard about the peer recovery program, and it was going to give me the opportunity to kind of navigate, you know, the treatment system here in Arkansas and kind of get me an in that door so I could still help, you know, as many people as I could. And so that's how I kind of got started into it.
That's pretty cool.
That is cool.
Yeah, there needs to be something like that for sure.
So do you know how many peer recovery specialists there are across the state?
Hundreds, yeah. Employed, I don't know the exact number that are actually employed, but we put hundreds of people through the actual training. And because of, you know, the ethics involved and how many hours that you have to get certified and all that, volunteering hours, supervision hours, a lot of people fall off and they don't follow through if they don't get employed right away. So
Right. And I know that like to work for a place like us or Dana's, you can't really be in a supervisory position because it takes you out of your peer status with folks. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
So at my agency, which I work for the Lonoke County Sheriff's Office, we have 4 peers total there. And so any agency that employs 2 or more peers, you have to have a peer supervisor to kind of make sure that we're going by ethics and policies and, you know, for the state in that sense. So
Right.
Well, what does a peer support specialist do?
in a nutshell, I would say we share hope through lived experience. We ignite the spark of hope in recovery. We meet people where they're at, you know, along their journey, whether it's day one and seeking treatment or maybe a year into it and they're looking at different options that are out there available to them, getting their driver's license back, goal setting, just being that person, you know, that peer-to-peer relationship of I've been there, I can help you, and we, you know, kind of let them navigate the experience, and we're just there to...
Is it a one-on-one thing, mostly?
Mostly we do group facilitation and advocacy, mentoring and education, just a variety of different things, so...
Do y'all go to court with them sometimes?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Yeah, advocate for them in court. We've got some great working relationships with the different court systems where we can go in and do that. And It's pretty cool considering where we were like 4 to 5 years ago to now, and we really try to hold it to a higher standard than most. So.
And I'm assuming this thing's kind of evolving too, but as y'all learn things and come together with different experiences that you have, it allows for you to go, hey, do we need to look at this or do we need to look at that? And I'm hoping that that's what's going on to kind of so you can increase what you're doing in your efficiency, through that. So
do you get most of your people through the court system that are referred to you?
In the jail, in Lonoke County Jail, mostly. I do get a lot of referrals outside through, social media. People will reach out to me on Facebook and whatnot, but the majority of them are in the jail itself or through the PAC program there.
I know you've helped. We've gotten some of those girls in the Harbor Home, and they've all done really well, I do believe. So it's been a really good partnership for us.
Great girls.
And I know you've worked with some folks we've had out here, and as time's gone on too.
Yeah.
So here's my question for you.
Okay.
Did you ever see yourself working for the Lonoke County Sheriff's Office?
No. But this is how God works, though. This is really crazy. Growing up, my dad always said, you're going to be a lawyer when you grow up. You just got that in you. And then when I went to college, I majored in criminal justice administration, but I was in my addiction and I never followed through. And so I actually grew up down the street from the sheriff of Lonoke County, and we were friends, as kids, and we obviously went two very different directions. And when I applied for that job, he did call me back right away, and then Jimmy McGill, who was helping me, get the position at the time, sent me a message, and he was like, you're probably not going to get the job. And I was like, why? He sent me every single Facebook post I'd ever made about John Staley, just tearing him down, from one side to another. Right. And so I had to make that phone call and talk to him and be like, that was not me. We got to sit down and share our hearts and where we were at with what we wanted to do to help people. And he hired me, and I could not, I couldn't thank him enough for giving me that opportunity.
Well, that's a God thing.
It is a God thing, and that's so cool, though, because in your addiction and in your mess, you were angry at him, and you were at odds with him, and now you're actually partnered up with him, and that is what God does.
That's what God does, and it's that ability to find forgiveness in our hearts and say, I get what happened, but that is not what's happening today, and that's an amazing thing.
Yep. It's a beautiful thing to see you using your life, and I always am fascinated by the women that I work with that have come through addiction and are now turning around and using that very thing that the enemy tried to destroy them with to turn around and help empower others. And then I'm sure in turn that it empowers you in your daily walk, in your daily life.
It does. It strengthens me so much because I see a little bit of myself in every single person that I encounter and every single person that I work with. And so it heals me just a little bit more every time I get to work with them. So
that's so powerful.
And I hate to ask this question out loud because I think I already know the answer, but as far as the faith-based concept of what you guys do, you got to kind of be careful to tread that lightly, don't you?
We have to wait on the door to be opened up for that. But one thing that we can do that will never change is we have to share our story. We have to share what we've done and what we've been through. So my testimony is always going to remain the same with anybody that I work with. So.
Oh, that's powerful. That's good.
It is powerful.
Yeah, because nobody can they can't take away your testimony because it's yours.
That's right.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, I'm glad you have the ability to speak that because, we know very few times in my life have I ever just said, I have 100% the answer for something. But we do. His name's Jesus.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because without him, we watch a lot of guys come through here, and man, they're just ready to die. And within about 3 to 5 days after they get a hold of Jesus, their lives change, their eyes change. We've talked about this a lot. They come in here and their eyes are dark, and that you start seeing that metamorphosis, I guess you'd say, as they begin to change. Their countenance changes. But we know we have the answer to it, and I'm just glad that they're allowing you to speak your testimony and let people know, hey, there is an answer to this. His name's Jesus.
Absolutely.
We have such a great network too of faith-based restoration ministries, in Arkansas that you can draw from. So if somebody does open that door, you kind of can look at the different various programs and see what might be a fit for them, for where they're at. But I love the ones that come in that are angry with God, that do have their arms folded, and we're inside of a church, and so they pull up in the parking lot, and a lot of times they have no idea that, and the first thing they think is, I'm coming to a church, and they want to run. But it's really kind of fun. We tell them when they come in, you don't have to believe what we believe. We're going to tell you what we have found that works, and we're going to tell you what we've experienced and what we know.
Right. You're
going to get to make your own decision. This is not forced. And it's just fun to watch them, watch the Holy Spirit work, watch their hearts begin to soften, and then to see them, in many cases, go down to the altar and just weep, before the Lord. And you can just watch the chains literally falling off. When you think about this podcast,
right.
Recovery Arkansas and Beyond, breaking the chains. So it's wonderful that you're in a position where you get to encounter people that may not at all be looking for Jesus. They may not be looking for faith-based, and they may be against it. But through your story, your example, and then the network that you're connected to, you can make a tremendous difference. And we're really proud of you for that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You bet.
One of the things, too, that I noticed, like in our program, their sentencing order reads that they have to go somewhere for at least 6 months after treatment. Well, the only places that are available for 6 months or more are faith-based.
Right.
So we have about, I would say, at least 75% of the people that go through the program go faith-based. So.
Oh, that's great.
You bet.
Well, that's exciting.
That is exciting. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit more about your testimony. How much are you willing to talk about? Because, that's kind of a personal thing.
Yeah, I'm an open book. I'm very transparent. My family doesn't like it sometimes. I'm the one in the family that speaks truth, and so. But I am, and I'm an open book. So.
Okay.
That's good.
Well, tell us a little bit about what happened.
Well,
I don't even know where to get you to start, but
I don't think there's anywhere to start but kind of the beginning, and I'll rush through it. And there's so much I'm going to leave out, over 42 years. But my mom had me when she was 16. My dad was a high school football star, went on to play at college, and had to drop out of school to come home and work a factory job. And when he was in college, they kind of turned him on to uppers back then, the early 80s, and so he came home already in his early addiction, I guess, and they were young, and so I had great family support, but I was shuffled back and forth to different family members, every weekend it seemed like, and my grandma, Church of Christ, her whole life, loved it. She would take me there on Sundays, or if I was at my aunt's, she was hardcore Methodist, so I would go there, and
Got
so
a little both, didn't
a little both. So I was introduced, at an early age to God, but I had a very skewed idea of what that looked like. I was introduced to a lot of religion, is what I like to say, but never relationship.
Right.
And, we had a lot of secrets in our family, my mom's side of the family, my grandfather was actually killed by a man who my grandma turned around and married. He turned out to be an abuser. And
wow.
So when I was over there, it was happening to me for a long time. And I remember about the age of 8, at this time I had developed trichotillomania, which is I was pulling my hair out and, had a lot of issues going on, and came to my mom and told her about it. But there was no, I just never went over there again. That's how they dealt with things. There wasn't any counseling or therapy. So I was this little girl that was trapped inside her head for a long time. My parents had divorced by that time. I was a daycare brat, the one that was the last one picked up every day, and they're sitting there going, she's late again, and I heard that. And then in school too, same thing. I had a lot of behavioral problems. So I sat at the back of the classroom, turned around facing the wall, just kind of felt pushed aside by everybody. Right. And I tried to overcompensate, I guess, tried to do my best in school. I was a big reader. I read a lot, played sports. But by the time I got into 9th grade, I had just given up, I guess, with trying to please anybody. And so that's when the bottom fell out for me. And from that period of 14 to 18, I was in and out of probably every psychiatric hospital in the state of Arkansas. I did 30 days at Pulaski County Juvenile Detention Center. I was constantly running away from home. At one point, I had went to the state's only juvenile rehab at the time in Fort Smith and met my oldest son's father there. But I went to see him one day and then didn't come back for 30 days and was out in the middle of the woods, you know. And when my mom and them finally found me, they had to put me in the hospital for a minute, skin and bones, just near death. And somehow I managed to graduate. I was 6 months pregnant.
Wow.
But I did graduate, and that summer when my son was born, you know, I was in this very toxic relationship with his dad. We were both young. I had no plans. And I remember my mom telling me, you know, you're going to have to abort or adopt or get out of the house because she was my parents had remarried and they were getting a divorce again at this time. My dad was pretty deep in his meth addiction, and more than anything, I wanted to take care of this baby. You know, it was like God had finally given me something, and in my heart, I knew that I wanted to take care of this baby, but it didn't work out like that. Like 6 weeks after I had him, his dad had dropped him. He had a transverse skull fracture. He was air flighted to Fort Smith, from Fort Smith to Little Rock. I stayed down there with him for a week with no change of clothes, just to be there with this baby, and ended up having emergency gallbladder and surgery, and my mom brought me home. And then I tried. That's all I could say. I tried. And met my now husband 3 months out of prison, was pregnant again within 3 months of meeting him, and we just had this super toxic relationship for the next 16 years of we would build everything back up just to destroy it all again, just these vicious cycles. I would quit meth and be an alcoholic for a period of time. I would try to pretend, you know, but behind closed doors, it was a big mess. But 2015 to 2018 was rock bottom for me. I was in and out of jail at White County multiple times. They would just throw me in the trustee pot every time and be like, oh, shoot, you know, I was good. When I went to jail, you know, I was a model inmate.
Good worker.
Yeah. And never had held a job or anything like that, but I was living in a camper. I was cooking food off the ground. I had no plumbing, no eyebrows, you know, pulling my hair out again. And I was just in this state of despair that addiction had ruled my life, and I did not see a way out of it. But a friend of mine, Jennifer Knight, I think you know who she is.
I do know Jennifer. Yeah.
Known her my whole life. We lived across the street from each other for a while. Our kids were friends. And after I had an attempt to take my own life and was literally woke up in the hospital completely alone and was like, this is rock bottom, Crystal. You know, she was like, I know this place you can go to. And I was like, can I smoke? That was my only criteria at the time. You know?
We hear that a lot, don't we?
Yes, we do.
Can I smoke? And she was like, yeah, I guess so. And it was Recovery Through Christ and Rosebud.
Yes.
And so I went up there on a Wednesday night for church service to do an interview. They didn't have an open bed. They were waiting on some bunk beds to arrive. But I remember sitting on the back row of that pew. And it'll make me cry talking about it because you never forget that moment.
It's okay.
It's okay to cry.
And a woman
I may cry with you.
she was doing a sign language song to My Redeemer Lives.
Yeah.
And so I broke down, like I felt it in the back row. And I knew at that moment my life was fixing to change, but I didn't know what that looked like or anything. But I just said, okay, God, I hear you. But I did like any person would do and was like, I got to get high one more time before I come back and turn myself in Friday night.
Right.
But when I got to the door that Friday night to walk in, I'd had paraphernalia on me. And because in the back of my mind, I was like, well, this doesn't work. This is my out or whatever.
Right.
And something stopped me at that door. And now I know it was God, but it was like, no, ma'am. If you're going to walk through these doors, you're going to surrender all right now and you're going to do it my way. And that was probably the first time in my life I was like, okay, you know, and I slept the first 2 weeks I was in there, but every single altar call, I would say, every single altar call that I had while I was there, I didn't graduate the program. I was only there 4.5 months. I surrendered a little bit every single time. My husband and I were separated at the time. I didn't have my kids in my life. I wasn't seeking reunification in any of that.
Right.
But he showed up to church one day, high, no place to sit but the front row, and the whole church prayed over him. And
I love that.
They prayed.
To sit but the front row.
And I was holding his hand through it, and I was crying and I was praying, but I could feel it, and I could feel God working between the both of us at that time. And he was like, he had secured us a place to live and everything, and he was like, if you'll come home, he was like, I need you to come home so I can get better. And I'm like, I cannot fix you.
Right.
God's gonna have to fix you. I said,
That's
but I
right.
have a plan. I talked to Jeff and Teresa, and I went home, and the first night that I went home was the first night he went to sleep, and I would anoint that man while he was asleep.
Yeah. Yeah.
For forever. But we were at Bible study on Monday nights, Celebrate Recovery on Tuesday nights, church Wednesday night, Crucie's house Thursday nights. Friday and Saturday, there was usually a recovery event, and church twice on Sundays. And we didn't even have a vehicle. We were walking.
Wow.
Like
That's
walking.
amazing.
Yeah.
The first the first month or two until we started meeting people that, helped us out until we got a vehicle. But I did that for a year straight. Like, I was so scared to make a move. I was scared to work. I was scared to do anything. And he just followed me through the...
You immersed yourself, literally.
I did.
You got saturated.
I had to.
And you needed that because you had been so saturated with many secrets and pain, abandonment, rejection, and I just marvel that you made it through that.
Yes.
Because, when you're a child and you tell something traumatic that's happened to you to the person that's supposed to protect you, and they just simply brush it under the rug, and you have to bottle that up. And we hear this. I mean, I hear this
Over and over.
Similar testimony so many times, because I think that that when you tell someone they're afraid, they're afraid. They don't know what to do with it, but yet it made you feel like you were less than, and you just were living that out. And then thank God that you came to the end of yourself.
Yep.
And I had to do that with forgiveness. That first year I was in recovery, when I came home, my grandmother was actually dying of COPD. And so I got to spend a lot of time with her at the hospital up until the very end. And I got to see what I didn't see before, which was she was afraid in that relationship, And I think everybody was. It was so taboo back then.
Right.
But
right.
I got to say, I forgive every single one of you. And that
set you free.
Set me free.
That's the key. Wow.
It's amazing how the chains come off when you find that place for forgiveness.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean you forget what happened, but you sure forgive them, and because I talk about this time and time again. If you don't forgive, then that person who hurt you's got control over you until you finally let it go. And if you don't let it go, they're running you all over the place, because you'll not go somewhere because you're afraid, well, I might run into that person, or I don't. And there's no need in it, because Jesus tells us if you can't forgive each other, how do you expect your Father to forgive you?
100%.
And look, we've all been in that place where there's people we just wanted to carry some grudge, and just that anger, it made us feel like that's what made us survive, but it didn't. It didn't. What helps us is when we finally get to that point and we say, okay, God, I've had enough. I forgive that person. I release them. I let them go from this.
I think sometimes it makes us feel like we're in control.
Yeah, we've got to be part of that. That's
go,
right.
And that it mattered. I think when people have this misconception, if you are able to forgive people, that somehow it's saying what happened wasn't a big deal, and it didn't matter. But it's so not that at all. It is a big deal, and you carry that. You carry that with you now, but that's what makes you so powerful, is that story, your testimony.
Yes.
That is a testimony that people can relate to, that people that have had similar, circumstances, they can look at you and go, wow, if God can do that for you, there's hope for me. And it's such a beautiful way that you're using your story and using your life, to shine that light into other people's lives, that there's hope. And his name's Jesus.
There's a light at the end of the tunnel, isn't it?
Yeah.
Before we go any further, let me just say this is a new channel, and we hope that you'll come in and subscribe to us, and we hope you'll give us a like and share it with all your friends, because there's so many things that are going to be talked about here that could mean a difference in the way that your life goes, not because we've done anything for you or to you, but just the fact that sometimes we hear those testimonies that come from people and we go, wow, I lived the same kind of life. And look, she found out what helped her. Maybe that'll help me. And we hope that you'll find some help. You don't have to come to the other side. You don't have to go to the Harbor Home to get help. we just hope that you'll get help somewhere. And that's what our goal is for here. So we just thank you for watching, and we're going to keep talking to Crystal, but just wanted to make sure that you guys subscribe and give us a like. So after you had went to this submission, because submission's where it's at.
Right.
And we see that time and time again out here. It's almost like they're resisting, and when they finally get that place, they go, wow, I'm going to submit. I'm going to give it all. Just like you said, you can't go, okay, well, I'm going to do this, and if this doesn't work out, I've got that. And it can't be like that. It's got to be all or nothing.
One of my really good friends, Michael Springer, that I work with, he says addiction is the only war that you have to surrender to win. And that just, I was like,
I'm going to use that.
Yeah, when he said that to me one day, I was like, you are so right. Like,
that's powerful.
Yeah. I think about this too, is when you surrender, this is the motion you make. And when we see these guys out here and they finally hit that place, it's like they throw their hands up and it's like, I give up. And that's it. We've got to let him have it, all of it. And I'm really glad you did. And so your life since then, let's talk about that.
Yeah. It's crazy. I'm 6.5 years into recovery now, into my relationship with God. Well, I say my rebirth day, right?
Right.
I went from year one, completely government assistance, to 6.5 years later, and I had to pay in taxes this year. That really made me mad because I'm like, I'm an adult and it's scary. Sometimes it's scary, but I love it. I love where I've been able to make a career out of something that most people are like, you should be ashamed of this. You should never speak of this. And so my husband and I just celebrated our 23rd wedding anniversary.
Awesome.
And I have
great.
3. My kids are 25, 22, and 18. And, that relationship, I would say, has been the hardest of rebuilding that. I did not make them any promises going into it this time.
Right.
What I do is I just continue, reaching out a hand and one foot in the front of the other every single day, just so they can see me walk the walk and not talk the talk anymore.
That's right.
So,
and your kids they're gonna look at you and see what you're doing. And I tell these guys out here a lot that, look, you may have gotten up to this point and not done such a good job, but you're going to finish well. You're going to finish well, and they get to see what it's supposed to look like. And so there's something I want to talk to you about too, because you said something about this a while ago, and I kind of got sidetracked in my mind because I'm like ADD, and so I've got 12 conversations going on all the time. But you said something about you didn't know what it was going to be like to be sober.
mm-hmm.
And
scary.
And it's scary because even though you don't know what sobriety is going to look like, you know what addiction looks like, and you know what to expect, and so it's easier sometimes to just fall back into that because you know what it's going to be instead of breaking new ground and trying to find something new.
Yes. Yep.
So
I think that's really interesting because we experience that a lot with the girls as they transition from phase 1 to phase 2. A lot of fear of the unknown, and what is it going to be like to be responsible, to have responsibilities, and can I do that? Can I, am I able to maintain that?
Can I maintain?
Can
I
I
think is the
maintain
biggest
that?
question.
Do you have any, what would you say to somebody that's feeling that fear, that's walking that out?
Stand on the promises of God and walk in that Godfidence, because Jeff Chandler, I would hold on to every word he said and I would take it in, and then reading and everything. And I was like, God's going to replace everything that you lost. He's going to restore the years, the locust.
Right.
Like, I stayed on all of those promises. And then also, the fear of God too. I have the fear of God in me, which a lot of people struggle with that too. Like, it's going to be 7 times worse. I have that in the back of my head as well all the time.
Yes.
And so, I've seen it, so I can't really go back. But I would say stand on those promises. Get into your word and see what God says and what He's going to do. And don't try to be God. Don't push God. Don't rush anything that He's not ready for you to rush into. And
That's right. We need to give a shout out to Jeff Chandler and Teresa Chandler. Man, what great people they are, and we love them dearly. And they've had a hand in affecting so many people to come out of the same place that you came out of, and we're just thankful that they have, and I know they continue to keep working with people.
Yes.
I know the FTC's not still there, but still that doesn't keep them from working with folks. So
Absolutely.
I noticed something. I was kind of like, what do they call that, stalking or something? I don't know. But I noticed on a post that you had that something about subject matter expert and trainer.
Oh, yeah.
What exactly does that mean?
Subject matter expert, all things addiction and recovery, I guess, is what you could say. So, I have, Jimmy McGill too says something. He has a education that can't be bought, taught, or replicated, right?
Right.
We have that lived experience from the streets and everything that we've done wrong in life, and we can turn around and use that to navigate anyone and wherever they want to go with their recovery journey. If they want to do CrossFit for the rest of their life, I can help them with a fitness plan.
Right.
But we were hustlers, and we were resourceful in our addiction, right? And
Yes.
same thing in our
Yes.
recovery. I love the
Yes.
fact that I can pick up the phone any day of the week, and I know somebody in some county that has resources to help an individual. That it's just like a continuous network of recovery.
That's
And
right.
I think it's
Isn't that
amazing.
exciting?
That's right.
We have that in Arkansas.
I know it's. I've been to multiple states, and it's crazy what we've got. It's Jesus, but it's like that's the missing piece.
That's right. Well, we've always said we wanted to create a community of recovery here, and that especially here, with us at the other side, was we wanted to try to make sure that we got as many local people as we could. So if they run into each other at Walmart and one of them looks kind of ragged, that one can say to the other, "Man, what's wrong with you? Are you okay?"
Right.
And if they look great, they can go, "Man, wow, you look like you're doing wonderful." And it's that accountability that we have with each other, and that's what we want for all of us. And I'm not talking about just for this local place. I'm talking about for the whole state.
Absolutely,
There's a strength in that too.
there is.
When you know there are other people fighting the good fight, and it gives you encouragement. Maybe when you're having a bad day, you've got a network, and it's so important that that everyone coming out of addiction finds their people, finds their network of support. Not only faith leaders, but just peers, as is in the peer support specialist.
Yes.
Right.
And it's wonderful that our state has led the way in doing that, because that's huge. And
Yes.
not every state has that. So
Yes. So what's the best way that people can contact you? I know that you have there's a website, not your website, but Arkansas Peer Recovery website.
Yes, so anybody that's interested in becoming a peer, if you want to contact a peer, if you're wanting resources, you can go to that peer page and get that. It has all the information on there. For me specifically, I have Facebook. You can contact me Facebook Messenger, or you can give me a call at the sheriff's office. It's 501-438-3958. I'm available most any time to answer any kind of phone calls. So
Awesome.
that's great.
Awesome.
What a resource.
Yeah, it's wonderful. I'm glad that whoever came up with this idea because we've sat back and watched over the years. All the years I spent in law enforcement, we didn't have anything like this. And so we had these people who were struggling, and where do we send them? What do we do? And back even when I was probation parole, they would come up with this big wad of money from a grant, and everybody that had been sitting on people that needed to go, we would have it used up within about 2 or 3 months, and
remember that.
and so it's a wonderful thing that you guys are there for the day-to-day stuff,
yes.
because where we had short windows of availability, y'all are there every day. So I really appreciate the work you guys do, and thank you for all the work you've done with the guys that I know personally. So
Thank you guys.
And with my girls,
Yes,
too.
Thank you so much.
you bet.
So thankful.
Is there anything you want to add?
I don't think so. I don't know. I keep getting Psalms 51 on my head, and I don't know
Well-
why, but that's what,
well-
if anybody is out there listening today, or, read Psalms 51 and look in there and see what God says about restoring a clean heart and renewing a right spirit within you, and, sacrifices that he wants is you and not anything else. So
You bet.
That's beautiful.
Well, I tell you what, let's finish this out. Dana, you want to pray over this?
Absolutely.
All right.
Father, we just come to you, and we're so thankful and so grateful for Crystal, for her ministry, Lord. for the position that you have placed her in, Lord, for the choices that she has made to serve you and to follow you, and to use her story to help others. Lord, I just pray that people out there that are listening to this would be inspired, would be motivated and encouraged, Lord, that you have got a plan and a way, and that their story, even though it may have been a rocky road and a very troubling past, is not the end of the story, but just the beginning, Lord. And we just thank you that you are in our midst. And we just pray that this podcast and this specific podcast with Crystal would go out and would minister to those that are hearing. Bless her, Lord. Bless the work of her hands. And we just love you. We thank you and we praise you for this opportunity. In Jesus' name.
In Jesus'
Amen.
name. And I know you got something you like to end with every time.
I do, and that is this. And that is this. The problem is addiction. And people get really focused on that. It's a big problem. But the answer is Jesus. And he came to set the captives free. And that's pretty simple.
That's right. So that about does it for us. We're out of time. We are glad you came, and thanks, Crystal, for coming and sharing with us. And we hope you'll come back and visit us again. And in the meantime, we love you. Keep watching. We appreciate it. Hey, and thanks for watching today. I'm glad you joined us. Hope you'll join us again. I hope some of the things that we talk about are going to be interesting to you. But I want to kind of tell you a little quick kind of a snapshot of us. We're Recovery Arkansas and Beyond, and we're an arm of the Other Side ministry. We're a faith-based, Christ-centered recovery center to help guys get through addiction, whatever addiction that may be, drugs, alcohol, whatever. And we just wanted to put something together that would kind of highlight some of these other guys and show them what we're doing in Arkansas. We wanted to put this thing together so you could see what we're doing out here, because there's a movement going on in the state right now where a lot of people have come together and put these facilities in similar to ours, and we're out here trying to help these guys get off this methamphetamine, get off of this fentanyl, get off of all these things that cause them so much trouble. And we wanted to put something together so that you could see what's going on and what's happening in your communities. We don't charge anybody to come out here. We felt like that Jesus paid the price, and so it doesn't cost anything for these guys to come out here, because we never wanted anyone to not come and get help because they felt like they couldn't afford it. So what we're going to ask you today, and we're not going to wear you out with this, but what we're going to ask for today is that if it's something you could do and you would like to donate to us, if you look below, you'll see a QR code, and we'll also include our email address. So one way or another, however you want to get in touch with us, that'll make it available for you to do that. And just let us know what you might want to do. There's one thing I definitely want to do on this program is I want to encourage you guys to send us emails to that email address and let us know your prayer requests and what's bothering you and the things that you may need prayer for. It may be a loved one who's struggling with addiction. It may be someone who's having some health issues. And send us those. And we have chapel out here 2 times a day, and we'll be more than glad to pray over those prayer requests. And also what I want you to do, as much as anything, I want you to send me praise reports. And those praise reports is what's God done for you? Because a lot of times, we're out there praying about, Lord, I hope you'll help me with this. But a lot of times he helps us with it, and we just want to shout it from the mountaintops. So send me those prayer requests and those praise reports, and we'll try to read as many praise reports as we can every week and just kind of let you know what's going on. So again, thanks for watching. And we ask right now that if you subscribe to the channel or you hit that like button for us, or share this with your friends. That's what we really would like for you to do. And let's get this out to as many people as we can get it out to. So thanks for watching. We love you, and come back and see us.